Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today we're going to paint this beautiful painting that you can see right here. Now, as always, before we start, let's go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we're going to need for today. First thing you're going to need is a canvas. I'm going to be using 8 by 10 inch canvas. It's right here. We'll also be using some paint. I'm going to be using Primary Colors Acrylic, student grade acrylic. And I'll be mixing them into every single color that you can see here. Now, don't ask me why I put blue on my plate. I have no idea. It just happened. We're not going to be using blue. We're going to be using yellow, red, plus black and white. You don't need blue. If you have orange, you can use it, but it's super easy to make orange out of our yellow and red. So you don't need that. Yeah, that's pretty much all you're going to need. And then we're gonna need some water, of course, because we can't paint without water. We're gonna need a paper towel or reusable fabric cloth, whatever you prefer to use. We'll also need a couple brushes. I'm gonna be using square brushes for this painting. So I'm gonna be using large, medium, and small. So my large one and my medium one are gonna be square. This is not true large or true medium. This is more of a medium large, not really large, and this is medium small, not really medium. So they're a bit on a smaller size, but because my canvas is fairly small, they're going to be my large and my medium. And for small brush, you always need, regardless of the size of your canvas, you're going to need a nice brush with a pointy tip. So I use, actually, this is a watercolor brush because I find it's really nice how they have a super pointy tip. So that's what I'm going to be using. And we're also going to need a pencil because we're going to start with a sketch here. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and actually just regular HB pencil is fine, so nothing fancy. Any pencil you have is fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position this triangle right here. So it goes until, well, actually we can start by identifying the middle of our canvas. So we're just going to put a little mark in the middle of your canvas. I always do that. That serves as a point of reference for the whole painting. So it's just easier to refer from that, left, right, and so on, to help us position things. If I were to look at this painting, my point of reference, this middle, would be somewhere around here. So now I'm going to position this triangle. Now we're positioning triangle not by the outer edge of not by this line, we're going to position it by this line. Do you see? A little bit in on, you see it's a little bit smaller than what's going to be in the end. So this is the line that we're going to position right now. Do you see? It's a bit smaller. Anyway, so from this middle, literally one straight, or you can bring it a little bit down if you want to. So you can do it straight horizontal or slightly tilted towards the bottom left, and then one that goes up. So two lines positioning our triangle. Preferably nice and light because we're going to erase those lines. We're not going to see them in the end. They're just there to help us position everything, but we're not keeping them. We don't want to see that in the end. So that's one. We position this triangle. Now we're going to place this path here. So again, a little bit lower than this triangle, you're going to add a line going down. So if these two lines, they're not parallel, if these two lines were continue, eventually they should cross. So this line and this line, they should eventually cross, right? Perspective. And then we're going to bring a little curve down here. Again, keep everything nice and light as you can, because we're not keeping those lines. Those are just help lines. We're not going to keep them. Now I'm going to position this tree. So again, I'm only going to draw a circle right here, not even a circle, it's like a curved line for our top of the tree, for all the beautiful leaves and everything else, for the foliage. So I'm going to position it here on the inside of all the fluffy leaves, right? And it's going to go a bit lower than the middle. So do you see where this line starts? So this is approximately where it's going to start, maybe even a little lower than that. And we're just going to place it somewhere here. You can make it bigger, smaller, entirely up to you. Again, just positioning. And then after that, I am going to position my, oh wait, sorry, another part of the path first. And now my bench. So for the bench, I'm going to start by putting 2 lines that will, again, if they were to continue going, they will eventually cross. So they need to be closer to one another here and further from one another here. Then I'm going to make it into a curve. You know, this is a complicated shape. Has a lot of twists and turns here. And then we have to repeat that shape again on the other side of the bench. To the best of your ability, of course. All right, legs you can do now or we can do them later. It's not a big deal. Let's sketch them, but just keep in mind you may paint over them and that's okay. In this case, in which case we'll just add it later on top. Okay, and there's a leg gonna be stick out here. And that's pretty much it. I have my bench sketched out. There'll be tree trunks here, but I don't need to sketch them out. I can very well freehand them. All right, so the only thing that we actually going to keep fairly dark is an outline of the bench. The rest we can do very, very light because all those lines we're not going to keep, except we will be keeping the bench lines. So everything else I'm going to lighten up so it's super nice and light, barely visible. All right, you see nice and light. If you need to see them again, if you didn't get a chance to sketch, you can rewind this video and just rewatch that section where I'm showing how to do them. And next I'm going to move on to my background. So I'm going to do very, very light colors to begin with. So I am going to, well, actually I'm going to start at a darker gray, but yeah, I'll move to lighter ones soon. So I'm going to scoop some white with my big brush. I'll add a little bit of black. I'll make about medium to medium dark gray. I would say this is about medium dark. It's not even medium. It looks not too dark here, but once I start putting it on a canvas, this is fairly dark. And then with this, I'm gonna go right here. So I'm gonna cover with this crisscross brush strokes quite a bit on this upper section. And then I am going to dab off my brush on a paper towel, take straight white, and I'm going to continue here with the straight white. I'm going to add a bit of straight white right under. I didn't wash my brush, it's okay, it's going to blend everything anyway. There's no point washing it. So I added some white there. And now I'm going to start going into this gray in this again. Do you see I'm doing almost like a little crisscross brush strokes? And you will see it will start blending all of that. Not in a very smooth, perfect way, but in this messy, textured, beautiful way. This is what we're looking for. So I'm bringing this white up into my gray to create a beautiful texture here and to create a little bit of a gradient. And then when your brush gets really gray, you can just do exact same thing and bring it down. Beautiful. Now my brush is very lightly gray right now. Like this is where it's at. It's not pure white, it's like slightly gray. So I'm just going to take a little bit more white on the same brush. I'm not going to refill it. I'm not going to wash it. I'll refill it without washing it. And I'm going to continue going to the side here and fill in this area with this fairly light gray crisscross brush strokes. And once I got to the end, I'll take a little bit of my gray and I'll just add a tiny touch of that to darken up that section lightly. And I'll add a smidge of that under this triangle as well. All right. Now we're going to continue down this path. So I'm going to take some white. Again, I'm not rewashing my brush once again, just because I don't need a perfect white here. I'm okay with light gray. So, and there's a little bit of gray on my brush. If your brush is really dirty or dark, please wash it off or at least dab it off on a paper towel. But in my case, it's not. So I can just continue with just refilling my brush with a little bit of white and keep going here. Then again, I'm going to take a little bit of that gray and I'm going to start adding little horizontal brush strokes. So some brush strokes are along the left here. Beautiful. I like that. That looks pretty good to me. All right, and now I'm gonna darken up a bit. So I'm gonna go on top and I'm gonna darken up a touch. So using still the same large brush. Again, I'm not washing it off. I'm just gonna dab off excess paint, but if I have some on it, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna take a little bit more black and I'm gonna darken up this gray that I had. You see now it's definitely dark gray. And with this dark gray, I'm gonna go on top and I'm gonna blend in another shade. So I'm gonna darken that up from the top down. All right, looking good. I'm gonna switch a brush. I'll wash off my large brush. I'll dab it on a paper towel. I'll put it aside. I'm gonna grab my medium brush and I'll take a little bit more of this gray. Of course, use water. Your brush, make sure you brush it. It's nice and wet. A little more of it. And I'm gonna add it right here. And I'm gonna add this line as well. So a little broken up, slightly messy. I'm using the top edge of my medium brush. You can use whatever brush works for you. Small or medium is good generally. Probably wouldn't use a large one. I'm gonna go around this bench a little bit, add a couple there too. The same color, same brush. Again, if you find it a little bit difficult to work with this brush, you're more than welcome to switch to a small brush instead. That will work just as well. For me personally, this one is great. I'll add a couple more here, but more broken up. I don't want to make it anything solid. I'll smudge it with my finger a little bit so it's not too, sticking out right in my face. I don't want it to be too visible. All right, let's leave that alone and move on to our color. So I'm gonna add a base for my leaves, and it's gonna be yellow to orange to red. So I'm gonna do a little transition there. So I'm gonna start, you can start with a large brush or medium, whatever you prefer. For me, large is good, I think. And I'm gonna take some yellow and mix it with a little bit of white, not a huge amount of white, just a little bit of white. I'm gonna go right here and I'm gonna start with the same messy brush strokes, adding this, covering this section. And I will definitely go a little bit outside of it. Okay, so I added some yellow, right? Now I'm gonna add some, I'm gonna make some orange. So again, yellow and white, plus a little bit of red. I'm gonna add some with orange next. So again, I'm gonna add a section and then I'm gonna spread it towards my yellow. And you can use whichever brush works better for you, large or medium. Both generally work really well for this. It just depends what you're more comfortable with. For a large one, I'm using mostly the corner of my brush, so my brush strokes are not that massive. And now for the rest of it, I'm just gonna finish up with red. But my red, it tends to be a bit on a pinker side. So I'm gonna add a smidge of yellow to it. And it's not to make it lighter in any way or make it orange. I just wanna give it a different undertone. Because if I don't add yellow, it's just gonna look a little pinker than what I would like it to be. If your red is great as is, you don't need to add anything. All right, that is done. And now I'm gonna move on to my other tree. So this one, and I'm gonna do pretty much the same thing, moving from the left towards the right. So I'm gonna go back to my yellow mixed with a smidge of white. Oh, my hair. Notice how I'm going a little bit further into my background than just the area that I reserved for it. It's all intentional. Okay, and I'm gonna move to my orange. I'm gonna work a little bit with that. All right, now I'm gonna let that dry and I'm gonna work on a bottom. So I'm gonna switch my brush for this because my bottom is just too small to work with the same brush there. So I'm gonna put this one aside and I'm gonna go with my medium brush. And I'm gonna go with a light yellow in here. So I'm gonna take some yellow and I'm gonna mix it with more white than I mix it for the top. For the top, I mix it with just a little bit. Here you can mix it with a decent amount of white so it's nice and light yellow. I'm gonna add a couple flicks here. I might even add a bit more white to this to make it a little lighter because I want it nice and not super pastel, but a lot more pastel than it normally is for this. Just added some highlights here, and then I'm gonna add some on the other side too. And again, I'm just using yellow and white. And I'm using the top edge of my medium brush. I'm gonna add a couple of reflections here going up. You could definitely do this with a small brush too. I find that I can manage doing this with a medium brush, but small brush works just as well. Okay, now we're gonna move to orange. So I still have a little bit orange from earlier. I'm gonna use that. If you don't have a, you can make similar orange. There's no particular shade that it has to be as long as it's orange. I'm gonna blend it in. All right, maybe a little bit more here. And then I'm gonna take Then I'm going to take straight red and I'm going to add some straight red there. On this right bottom corner. All right, so do you see it? We have the bones. It's very bright and that's good. That's the way it should be at this point. Oh, and I'm gonna add a bit of red right here as well. Okay, and let's work a little bit on our bench because the bench, we don't have anything going on there yet. And we probably should. So I'm gonna take some white. I'm gonna cover my bench with white. You can use any brush that works for you. For me, medium brush still works well. So I'm gonna use it. If you find that medium brush is just difficult because it's a little too big, small brush is a really good choice here. Okay, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of orange. I'm gonna flick them in. All right. And now I'm going to move on to the darker color. So I'm going to use super dark gray right now. It's almost black. So again, I'm going to start with mixing it. I'm going to take some white and some black, but this time plenty of black. You see, it's really dark gray. It's even darker than the previous one. But it's still not black. The difference is visible. And with this gray, I'm going to go right here and I'm going to add the final layer of darkness. So again, one more shade darker, but you just dry brush it on top, only a little bit. You don't want to blob it on. This is exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to blob it on here. Just want to add it really lightly. Beautiful. I'm gonna add it around here as well. This lower area here. A little bit right here. And then I'm gonna switch to, you can switch to either small or medium brush, but I'm gonna go with a medium one. And with the same gray, I'm gonna use the top edge of my medium brush. So the small one works really well too. I'm gonna add a bit of darkness around here with the horizontal brush strokes like this. All right, I think I'm happy with this. And now I'm going to move on to the darker color. So I'm going to start with the red mixed with a touch of black. I'm going to do it with my medium brush as well. So I'm going to take some red. I'll add a tiny touch of black. So you don't want it to be full on black. You want it to be this burgundy, like a wine, red wine kind of color. And with this color, I'm going to go right here and I'm going to add some right into my red. You'll see it will darken it up. Make it a little dimmer as well, because right now it's so crazy bright and vibrant, right? And now to the side, from the side in, I'm going to bring that too. And I'm doing that again with those crisscross brush strokes. I'm going to add some red underneath here as well. It's red mixed with black. So it's the same color. I didn't change color. I'm just still using the same red mixed with black. All right, and now we're gonna add straight black. So I'm gonna take, you don't even have to wash your brush, or you can, it wouldn't hurt either. Just take some black and I'm gonna go the same area. So just right under here. All right, where else do you see? We added black there. I'm gonna add a little bit, again, I'm just using straight black. We're gonna use a little bit of black right here, near the edge where my colors connect. I'm using still a medium brush, but small is really a good choice for that too. I'm gonna add a tiny smidge of black as a crisscross brush strokes right from the edge in. All right, and maybe just like a tiny touch right here. And I'm gonna wash off my medium brush. And after this, I'm gonna add my little human. I'm gonna add the light yellow. I'm gonna add the, what's it called? Street light. Street light. I'm gonna add the tree trunks and all that pretty stuff. So let's start with adding our little human. So I'm gonna take my, you could technically, if you have time, you could just wait until it all dries and you can sketch it. You might find it helpful, but I'm just gonna freehand. I'm gonna start by adding the body. So I'm gonna add a head, and there's gonna be sort of like a silhouette of a jacket. He may look a little bit like a penguin for a while, but that's all right. That's okay. We don't mind. He can look like a penguin for a little bit. You see a jacket, just a silhouette, a jacket, pants, And there's going to be an umbrella. If it's messy, that's not a bad thing for this painting. It's all messy. And then I'm going to do a reflection. Okay, that's my human. Now I'm going to add with the same small brush and black. And by the way, I'm watering down my black because I find that more liquid consistency of paint allows for better lines. So I always like to water down my paint when I work with fine lines. And I'm going to add 2 tree trunks there. And I'm gonna add a couple branches. So for the branches, you always want to bring them from where they grow from out, because then you can push a little bit harder where you start your branch and it will look thicker there. And then as you go further, you're going to be slowly letting go of your brush, slowly lifting your brush, and that will create a nice thin pointy end. That's what you want. You want your branches to be a little bit thicker where they grow from, slightly thinner on the ends. I'm gonna add a street light. So I'm gonna start by putting just one line. I'm gonna add that shiny part on top, this beautiful section. And then I'm gonna thicken up the base of my street light. And I'm gonna add a reflection to it as well. And then I'm gonna add tree trunks and branches to my right tree. So I'm gonna add a couple of tree trunks. I usually like adding them from the bottom up as well. And then I'm gonna add a few branches. Beautiful. And now we're gonna add details on our bench and the legs to our bench. It will be difficult to see them because they're on black, but we're gonna highlight them and then you're gonna be able to see them really well. So I just literally added them exactly as I sketched them, but you can't see them because they're in black. All right, and the another thing that I want to add is a couple, you see there are a couple gray tree trunks in the distance. So whatever gray you have, I'm just going to take a little bit of this gray, water it down. I'm just going to flick a couple tree trunks. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. As that's drying, I can work a little bit on my little human here. And I'm gonna take all the colors that I used and add it onto my human basically. So I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow mixed with white. I'll add some on a hat, a little bit on the jacket, then I'm gonna go with orange. Add a little bit of orange. And then I'm gonna do some red. All right, and now I'm gonna mix some yellow with some white. So I'm gonna take some white, some yellow, I'll mix them up. And I'll take a little bit of this paint. And I'm gonna add the lighter poppy yellow. So this one is going to pop really well. So do you see? I'm going to add a little highlight, especially where I have the light yellow base already. But this one is highlight, so you don't need as much of it. You just need, highlight is exactly what you need. A little highlight of this color. You want it to pop. You want to lighten it up, but don't add as much of it because it's going to just overtake everything if you do it. It's not going to look good. So we're going to cover with this maybe 70, maybe 80% of what is yellow, and lightly bring it into our red and oranges. And I'm doing this with my medium brush. Okay, and I'm gonna add the same color, so yellow mixed with white, to here, so this section as well. So do you see? It's a lot brighter than our previous color, only because this one has more white added into it. Plus, actually not only, because one of the reasons is because it has more white into it. Second one is because we're laying it over already pre-painted yellow background. So it's almost like a second layer, which always makes it brighter. And then if you wanted to bring it in a little bit, you can. See, I brought it a little bit further in. Right, and after that, the only thing that's left for us is, oh, actually, maybe let's add a little bit of light yellow here too, and then we'll add highlights, because that will be the last thing that's left for us. So maybe I'll add a tiny smidge of this super bright yellow right here, and then we're gonna move to our highlights. So I'm gonna do white highlights. I'm gonna start with my medium brush as well. I'm gonna wash it off, make sure it's nice and clean. I'm gonna take a little bit of white, and I'm gonna go right here, adding tiny highlights there. All right, I'll take a little bit more white and I'm gonna add it around here using the top edge of my brush. And then I'm gonna take my small brush. I'm gonna take a little bit of white and I'm gonna add a little highlights here to my human. Again, a little reflection. So this is just adding fine lines and all of that. Wherever you feel like adding a fine line, now's the time. So I'm adding a couple of vertical lines too to break it up almost. I'm gonna add a little highlight inside this street light, and I'm gonna definitely add some highlight to my bench. right, maybe I'll add a couple more. This looks pretty good. I'm quite satisfied with it. I'm just thinking whether I love it or not yet, because that's just what you do basically. You keep working at it until you love it, and then you stop. For me, I think I'm getting there. I think I'm almost loving it. Maybe a couple more little highlights. All right, I think I love it. Yay. Okay, so I am officially done. I really like it. I think it looks great. So guys, there are no more steps, but please make sure you look at it and see what you like or don't like about it. Don't finish, don't call your painting done until you love it. If you need to correct something, please go ahead and do that. So just continue working on it until you feel like you love it and there's nothing else that you want to do with it, and then call it done. Now, what I would recommend is painting your edges as well. Do you see how my edge is nice and messy? I'm gonna make it nice and not messy. And there are two different ways you could do it. One is you color match everything that's going on the front of the image. So if you still have quite a bit of every color, or at least a little bit of every color that we used, you can just take some of that paint and match it to wherever it needs to go. So that would look like you wrapped your image around your canvas and around your canvas frame. But because everything is so dark here, I actually love using just black. That's my personal preference. I do love the color match look, but when the painting is so contrast like this one, I think black looks better. But again, that's just me. That's just my opinion. So I'm just going to take some black and I'm going to color my edges black. And I would always highly recommend doing your edges one way or the other, because then you can hang it and you're not going to have the messiness. It's going to look a lot more finished and polished. You're ready for the hanging. Do you see? It almost looks like it creates a look of being framed. But again, totally your choice. You don't have to do it. It's not going to affect the front of your painting by much. Again, it's a personal preference. I love the look. Doesn't mean you have to. So I'm going to do that to mine. And then the last thing you guys want to do is you want to sign it. So find a good spot and you can put your name, initials, or anything else to signify that this is something that you have proudly created. And then you hang it on your wall and take a photo and send it to all your friends. And then you wait for all the compliments. Right, I think this looks good. Yay! So mine is painted and all the edges are painted, and you see how great it looks. I love it. All done. Well, thank you all for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed your painting time with me. If you did paint along, or just watching time, if you didn't attempt this just yet and maybe you just wanted to see how it's done before you dive into actual painting. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. We do check them every now and then. However, if those are urgent, feel free to email us or message us on Facebook. You will get a response much, much faster. Oops. And please feel free to share your results. We love seeing how they turned out. We have a group on Facebook that we always encourage everyone to share their results from painting with us, so we can all take a look and, feel connected through that. So feel free to post it there. The link is in the description of this video. You'll find it there. Would love to see how it turned out. And let's do this again sometime soon. Bye, everyone.